Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Coffee and Current Events, and today I have another mapping update for you. As usual, we're going to be starting this update in the city of Bakhmut, where Russian forces are making large advances. So let's start with the latest news. Things are starting to heat up around the Horomove road right here. Some reports are suggesting Russia has captured the road. If this road gets captured, Ukrainian forces will basically be trapped in Bakhmut. This will be devastating considering the fact that there are thousands of Ukrainian soldiers in and around Bakhmut right now, still fighting for the city in the best way they can. The Ukrainians are making their last stand in these areas of Bakhmut. I'll call this area Sector 1, Sector 2, Sector 3, and possibly Sector 4. You can literally see the street names right here, and you can see the neighborhoods. This is where the combat is going to take place. Now, the Ukrainians do have a lot of high-rise buildings in this area, and that could prove difficult for the Russians to take. However, recently we've been seeing reports that Russian forces are improvising and utilizing FAB-500 bombs. These bombs are extremely destructive and cause massive craters that can obliterate a large percentage of enemy forces that the Wagnerites or Russians are coming up against. It looks like the Russians have shifted their main focus of attack from driving into Bakhmut to attacking the Horomove road. And they've either cut the road off or are extremely close to doing it, maybe within even 100 meters of cutting off Horomove road. Aside from the Horomove road, there's only one road Ukraine could, in theory, utilize. That is the Ivanivsky road right here. However, as you can see, this is extremely close to Russian line, and this road can easily be shelled. So the Ukrainians are going to have to do something very fast, or thousands of Ukrainian soldiers are risking being cut off. Aside from the roads, like Horomove, there are really only fields the Ukrainians can retreat to get to safe ground. To withdraw on foot in this open terrain, they have serious risks of being systematically annihilated by Russian artillery. The Russians could be using dumb shells, smart shells, it doesn't really matter. If you're retreating by foot within a few miles of enemy artillery, you have a high chance of being annihilated. So that's probably not a probable option, and the Ukrainians are likely to only attempt this as a last resort. Now that we've addressed that part of the battle, let's jump on to Ivanivsky. Now, we know that the Russian forces can shell the Ivanivsky road. However, if the Ukrainians manage to withdraw from Bakhmut, they could use Ivanivsky to slow the Russians down. If Ukrainian forces end up having to retreat from Bakhmut, and they are able to get enough forces into Ivanivsky, they can potentially slow the Russians down by crossing this river and getting into the city and turning Ivanivsky into a very temporary fortress as they withdraw further to Chasiv Yar. It's a very dangerous move, and they still stand a high chance of getting bombed and shelled into oblivion, but it's perhaps the best thing they could do if they want to withdraw from Bakhmut. Keep in mind, Ivanivsky is still a town, so they could still use it to slow the Russians down as they withdraw. But these decisions are going to have to be made quickly, within the next few hours, because the Bakhmut situation is getting worse for the Ukrainians almost daily. Wagner's advances are gradual yet consistent, and the Ukrainians don't seem like they're able to stop them. So it's either now or never. Get out of Bakhmut or be destroyed. So with that in mind, the Ukrainians' best bet is to withdraw to Ivanivsky, slow the Russians down, and perform a gradual withdrawal to Chasiv Yar. Let me be clear, this is an option that carries an extreme amount of risk. But as I said previously, you either withdraw or you get destroyed. It's better to risk immense destruction to have the army fight on for another day than to risk total destruction just to avoid being potentially annihilated. If they attempt to avoid being potentially destroyed by retreating to Ivanivsky, they will be destroyed in Bakhmut, unless they launch a counteroffensive soon, which, considering the muddy conditions in Bakhmut right now, I do not think we're going to see any Ukrainian offensive there. Listen, this mud in eastern Ukraine is notorious throughout history. Every single person who fights in eastern Ukraine has to deal with this mud. Any offensive going through mud is not going to be a good idea, especially if you have heavy vehicles like tanks, AFVs, IFVs, and armored personnel carriers. It's just not a good idea, and I don't think the Ukrainians will be able to launch a counteroffensive in time to stop the fall of Bakhmut. These strongholds of western Bakhmut are the last strongholds Ukraine has in the city.